Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butts, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Today's program is brought to you by Tabard Inn, new American cuisine in one of Washington, D.C.'s oldest hotels, located in DuPont Circle. For more information, visit tabardinn.com.
Today's program has been brought to you by Route 11 Potato Chips. Made with a secret recipe and superior ingredients, their mission is to make an outstanding product in a safe and clean environment. For more information, visit www.rt11.com.
My name is Hannah Forden. I'm the membership coordinator at Heritage Radio Network, but even before I joined the team, I loved listening to HRN during my subway commute. It made the time go quickly and left me feeling inspired for the day ahead. HRN listeners tune in from all over the world, but there are a few traits that we all have in common, no matter where we listen from. A curious palate, the fierceness to make a difference, and a hunger for lifelong learning about the culinary world. As you know, Heritage Radio Network is a listener-supported nonprofit. To deliver the most ambitious, entertaining, and of-the-moment stories in 2018, we need your help. We need to raise $150,000 by December 31st to accomplish these goals and to keep your favorite shows on the air. Together, we can make this HRN's most exciting, impactful, and delicious year yet. Become a member by donating today. Join us at heritageradionetwork.org/donate, and you'll immediately start enjoying benefits such as VIP invitations to HRN events, where you will mix and mingle with your favorite hosts. Memberships also make a perfect holiday gift for all the foodies in your life. This year, why not give the gift of food radio? You'll hear your generosity in action for the year to come. Help keep our lights on and our mics hot by pledging your support today at heritageradionetwork.org/donate. Thanks for listening.
Oh, I like the way you do.
Hey, you're listening to Eat Your Words on Heritage Radio Network, and I'm your host, Cathy Irway. And today is the last show before we take a little break for the holidays and come back in the new year. And as the last show of the year, it's a really great time to sort of look back at the trends and developments and discussions around the world of food. It's been a joy to sort of discuss many of them throughout the year here at Heritage Radio Network. And currently, as many of you may know, the restaurant industry is engaged in a very heavy discussion around some of the powerful men in the food industry and the ways that they've abused that power. I'm sure we'll continue talking about those issues well into 2018. But, as we look back at the year, I got to say that one of the more interesting conversations I've seen come up is this sort of searching to identify or to understand what makes food authentic to any cuisine. Does it matter who is making it or who it's served for, what it adheres to or doesn't? And where is there a line, or is there a line, between food that may be derivative or inspired by cuisine of another country or origin and being exploitative of that cuisine, or even as some have, brought up in many long thought pieces, culturally appropriative of that cuisine? I think that those questions, however, are best being answered by a sort of really bold and extremely talented new generation of chefs who sort of have this no-holds-barred approach to blending influences from their own heritage and the flavors and techniques that they love in a way that may be something that we've never seen before, but is totally natural to them. So, and it doesn't, stick within any boundaries of one cuisine. So I think that a chef and a book that really embodies that attitude is the one I'm holding right now. And it's written very thoughtfully about these questions. My guest today, she's the chef and co-owner of 4 restaurants, 3 in Seattle, 1 in Portland, Joule, Revelry, Revel, and one other that is somewhere else. I'm sure she can answer. Okay, so anyway, rising star chef. I'm so thrilled to have her on the show, Rachel Yang. Hi.
Hi, how are you doing, Cathy?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks so much for joining us. And what is the name of your other restaurant that I forgot?
Yes, it's called Trove. And thank you so much for having me.
Okay, great. And I forgot to mention, your new book is called My Rice Bowl, Korean Cooking Outside the Lines. So I really love how you sort of like lay down the gauntlet in the introduction of your book to say, what exactly your perspective is on this. And if I may start out the discussion by reading a little bit from that intro, would you mind that?
Sure.
Okay,
not at all, please.
Perfect. So in describing what is Korean cooking outside the boundaries, you write, the food you'll see in the recipes that follow isn't Korean food. Korea is our starting point, but anyone who has walked into our restaurants looking for traditional bibimbap can tell you we do not run Korean restaurants. But our version of Korean-inspired food is itself akin to that rice bowl. Underneath everything, there's a dependable backdrop, my Korean heritage, made up of my childhood and distant food memories that are ingrained in me. It's topped off with a mosaic of flavors seasoned from my cooking experience, informed by Japan, China, France, Italy, Mexico, Spain, Thailand, Vietnam, Mongolia, and India, just to name a few. The way America is. This is the authentic food of a Korean immigrant who tried everything she could to become an American, but only became one when she realized that her culture, among many, is what makes America so delicious today. I thought that was really poignant way of putting it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Rachel, you write this book and you instruct people to kind of use it as a guide, but it really defines a very singular point of view. I would love you to kind of like, describe some of that. For some people who may have not been to Joule, I could like mention some of the recipes so you can get a taste of it. There's like shrimp and bacon dumplings with mushroom XO sauce. There's broiled mackerel and green curry chimichurri, spicy pork rib in a hot pot with tomato, potato, perilla. There's 6 different kinds of kimchi, some of which are not at all, something you'd find in Korea, I think.
That's right.
Okay. So, something, to know about your background is that you're very, very classically trained in French technique. You studied you cooked under Thomas Keller at Per Se, and you rose the ranks of sort of the New York fine dining scene. So how did this whole evolution of, using your Korean background and the flavors that are sort of ingrained from your childhood, how did that come about? How did you decide to mix and saute with those flavors in your current cooking?
Yeah, so I came to the States when I was 15 and decided to cook after I graduated from college. When I went to cooking school in New York City and then went on to start cooking at various restaurants, mostly French restaurants, from that, even at that point, I did not know what I wanted to cook, and I did not even know that you were supposed to have your own flavors or personalities or colors when you're cooking. I was just kind of really engulfed in basically working for these great restaurants, working for this great chef, and just the whole artistry and the craftsmanship of actually cooking itself was so fascinating. So it wasn't until when I was given a chance to be a chef at this modern Korean restaurant and then start cooking and then realizing the reason why people are actually looking at this restaurant twice, looking at the menu twice, was because of the fact that, they're doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
This is we're talking about, almost 12, 13 years. Back then,
Mm-hmm.
David Chang was just quite around yet.
Yeah.
So Korean food at that time, even in New York City, was fairly new and fairly only known as an ethnic restaurant.
Yeah.
So that's when I realized, wow, people are taking an interest in what I'm doing because of the Korean food that I'm doing. And that really struck me really hard. But after that, I moved out to Seattle with my husband. And when we opened our restaurant, to be honest, at that point, we were just having fun. We were literally 29 years old, young chefs. We are just being ambitious. And, when you see a lot of young chefs, they want to go everywhere with their flavor. And that's exactly what we were doing. And that's when we realized you can do everything as a chef and as a cook, but having a foundation, having a flavor that grounds it all, it ties it all, was what made it not just a fusion that people call, but something that makes it a little different. Because I am doing this because the fact that it still ties to Korean food. I'm doing it, and it still ties back to what I've been eating my entire life.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really interesting that somebody sought you out to open this new, or I guess modern Korean restaurant. Was that her vision? To open something that had influences from Korean, but wasn't necessarily too strict or too stodgy, didn't, adhere to these formulaic Korean American restaurant menus?
Yeah, well, I mean, everything was almost an accident. So I met this woman, and she was Korean American, and she was fascinated with the restaurant scene in New York City and wanted to, open a restaurant. And to be honest, in the beginning, when she and I decided to work together, I wasn't her chef. I was her sort of a helper, make sure that, she has everything that she needs to open a restaurant. But she was looking for an American chef who can bring this Korean flavor to New York City. Okay. Someone who actually has a little more experience. I mean, to be honest, at that point, I was still a line cook. I was still, trying to learn everything. So it actually came later when she could not find American chef who understands Korean flavor, and then turned to me hey, Rachel, okay, we need to open a restaurant. Construction is almost over. I do not have a chef. Do you want to do a tasting for me? And that's literally how it started. And even at that point, I'd never cooked Korean food before.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess so. Yeah, I think I can try. And it was literally the fact that this is the flavor that I grew up with, that I was eating my entire life. And knowing that what comfort, how the Korean food really hits you in your gut with all this comfort, bold, big flavors, and really wanted to kind of bring that out, basically.
That's such a fascinating story. I love how she actually sort of lent you her mother to show you how to do some Korean food techniques.
I know. So when she decided that, okay, Rachel's going to be the person who's going to, be the chef of this restaurant, we're just going to see how this works out. And her mother actually came from Korea and taught me just a race of different Korean dishes, anything from kimchi to different pancakes and some side dishes. From there, it was something that I knew the flavor of, but never knew how they come together. And that was my crash course in Korean food.
Did you feel a little bit strange about that? Oh, I've been eating this my entire life, but I don't know how to cook it. And yet I know how to cook all these other foods really well. Did that?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a household where my parents were both working parents. Food was important at the same time. I didn't get a chance to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. Food was something that, really came to me later in my life. And we realized, I've always thought that, you have to go to a French restaurant. You have to learn how to do these techniques and go through this brigade system. And that's sort of the really epitome of cooking. And then realizing, there's a whole another, part of cooking that talks about flavors and measuring things in different ways. Talks about you're just sniffling this and touching this and feeling this. But the fact that I was able to understand all that means, because I know what we were looking for. I know the flavor she was talking about. It wasn't about techniques and following the recipe, but it was really kind of taking the flavors out of my memory. Right.
And were the techniques themselves like vastly different? Did you have to learn a sort of new language in the kitchen?
A lot of Korean cooking, it's not vastly different, but at the same time, the braisings and, sauteing, it takes a little bit different whims and different ways of looking at things. Yeah. So definitely, the fact that I had a French, training background was definitely helpful to be able to understand we want it to be cooked to the tender and, because those seasonings to be this way, how you lay your flavor, you were able to basically understand and, this way it can be a little more efficient, this can be a little bit more better, so.
That's really cool. So you're taking a little bit of the best of both worlds, almost.
Right, absolutely.
And do you think, I guess, I have to ask this, but do you think that food tastes better when you can sort of throw away the traditional rubric of what needs to go with what from any one cuisine?
Well, I think that's a really interesting question because that really touches up on what you talked earlier about authenticity. So there is an authentic way of, let's say, doing kimchi. However, when you start incorporating your ways or, what you think is better, what you think is making more easier or more efficient, is that a better way or is that a new way of doing it? It's always very tricky because of the fact that, people, there's certain items that people really are attached to and don't want changes and don't want anything new. However, when you look at even kimchi per se, there are so many different kind of kimchi when you go to Korea. Every region has their own take on it. Every household have a different way of putting together their different vegetables. I mean, there's so many different ways people have made up variations on this one authentic concept that people think the kimchi should be. And I think when we are doing it, you never even question the fact that, I am making a change versus this just makes sense at this time, at this point, and at this place.
Yeah, but if there weren't differences, then how would you say, mine is better or that one is better? Of course there's small differences, right?
Well, that's the thing. Even, I don't know if you... Because I see it in our restaurant all the time. Okay, so let's say we have 10 different cooks, and I give them one single recipe to make, and they'll actually have 10 different ways or 10 different, the final result. Or everyone's taste bud is slightly different, and it's so funny to see that, okay, we're all trying to make this one thing, but in the beginning, the way everyone approaches the recipe is so different, and even the fact that you get 10 different flavors from one recipe, what does it mean to make a variation purposefully and then make them different later?
Well, I think, as you said, before, it really also comes down to your attitude or preferences. Some people really like to stick with tradition and other people maybe find your food or whatever better by virtue of being novel and excitingly different. So there's...
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I think the fact that, the way we do flavors, we obviously have a lot of strong Korean Asian flavor references, but we have our customers from all over the place. We have customers from everywhere, and then when they come and taste our rice cake, it's a spicy rice cake, based on Korean tteokbokki. It's spicy, chewy, crispy. It's really wonderful. And then the fact that what makes it a little bit different is we add chorizo to the mix. People often
instead of pork,
a little bit of cumin and garlic. Pork sausage just takes the flavor so differently. And for a lot of people who've grown up eating chorizo flavor can instantly relate to this flavor. It's not a one flavor that people are relating to versus that there's so many different avenues people can relate to the food that we're doing. And I think that's what makes it so much fun.
And it's a twist, yeah. And I have to say, these recipes, they all look incredible. The way your philosophy has manifested is amazingly delicious looking. So... That's
awesome. Thank you.
That counts too. After a quick little commercial break, Rachel, I hope you won't mind if we play a little game, but that's going to be coming right up after some commercial announcement.
Okay, sounds good.
Great.
The following program has been brought to you by Tabard Inn. Tabard Inn, Washington, D.C.'s quintessential small hotel, is located on a quiet, tree-lined street just 5 blocks from the White House. Vibrant yet unassuming, the Tabard is comprised of 40 sleeping rooms, each unique in character and design. Feast on eclectic American cuisine in their acclaimed restaurant, or enjoy a cocktail and listen to live jazz in one of their cozy Victorian seating areas. Mingle with travelers from around the world who find the Tabard the only place to stay when taking their travels to Washington. For more information, visit tabardinn.com. The following program has been brought to you by Route 11 Potato Chips. From the moment Route 11 Potato Chips dropped their first batch of chips back in the early days of 1992, they understood their destiny as a high-quality producer. Instead of succumbing to the frenzy of mass production, they took advantage of their small size and made chipping a personal art form. The payoff was immediate. Incredible potato chip. With a secret recipe and superior ingredients, their mission is to make an outstanding product in a safe and clean environment. In this world of uncertainty that we live in, Route 11 Potato Chips believes comfort food should be just that. Know where your food comes from. For more information, visit rt11.com.
All right, we're back chatting with Rachel Yang. She's the author of My Rice Bowl, Korean Cooking Outside the Lines. She's also the co-owner and chef, along with her husband, Seif Chirichi, of the restaurants Joule, Trove, Revel in Seattle, and then Revelry in Portland. And the duo has also been nominated for the James Beard Award for Best Chef 4 times. I hope next year is your year. sounds like you're due for one of those. But it's so much fun talking about your approach to cooking and the wonderful mixes of influences seen throughout this book. I wondered if you could engage in a little game that I've devised of sort of taking. Okay, so I'm gonna come up with a classic, sort of well-known, beloved, ages-old dish, and I'd love for you to sort of put your chef thinking cap on and tell me how you might tweak it to taste exciting and different and new.
Okay,
awesome.
Gotcha.
Okay, so let's start with Boeuf bourguignon. This is a French stew with beef, red wine, mushrooms, onions, some bacon. Go.
Yeah.
Rachel,
so
go.
I think we can. Yeah, so I mean, it's a perfect winter comfort dish.
Yeah.
And I think if you kind of sort of take that flavor and then kind of take a little bit of maybe Chinese twist on it, and then do a red braise. Mm-hmm. So red braise is basically like based on a little bit of caramelizing your meat with a little bit of sugar, and then adding your soy sauce and your little bit of wine to deglaze everything, and then putting some dry shiitake mushrooms, burdocks, and lotus roots, and then kind of turning it into a really warm, hearty, but wine-based braise of beef.
Okay.
I think that'll be just a perfect combination to kind of take it from beef bourguignon.
Wow. Would you use red wine instead of like rice wine?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's where
cool.
you can kind of have fun. The fact that you can kind of see how one dish can have a reference from the other dish, and kind of finding a commonality of it, and then how can I change it? So these are the 2 classic dishes that also has a really dark, deep flavor of beef, and then you can use the braise in so many different ways, and using either dark red and then a little bit of port maybe. Ooh. Because a lot of a little masala, a lot of the Shaoxing wine that you use in Chinese cooking has a
sweet
little bit of like a Madeira kind of flavor. Yeah. And I think just kind of being able to mix and match and then getting the really dark flavor would be a really awesome way to approach it.
This is awesome. I'm totally going to scare my mom with that description of adding red wine, French wine to her beef stew. That's great. Okay, let's try the next one. Fried chicken and biscuits.
Oh, fried chicken and biscuits. So we actually, one of the recipes that's in the book is our Korean fried chicken.
Cool.
So we do it's a super crispy chicken that we do a coating with some cornstarch, rice flour, and tapioca flour, and then we make this wonderful spice sauce, making some fish caramel and gochujang and a little bit of anchovy and raisin. So you can make this awesome fried chicken, and then the way you kind of eat it with biscuits. You can easily make either Chinese pancake, and that would be actually a really Chinese scallion pancake.
Yeah.
Where you roll the dough, twist it up, and flatten it, and then just like have it all, like that could be your kind of halfway chicken and waffle, chicken and biscuit, and then totally have it your way.
That sounds so good. Again, another like fun comfort food.
Absolutely.
Little different spices though. Okay, now this one might be tough. How about spaghetti and meatballs?
Spaghetti and meatballs. Gosh, I mean, like there's so many awesome noodle dishes that you can do. So we've always wanted to do like meatball is actually a one way for me to describe a like dumpling texture filling. Of the filling. Whenever we make dumplings, whenever I teach people how to make dumplings, just think about that you're making a meatball. Like that's the kind of consistency you're looking for. Right. So I think you can totally go think about your like really fun different meatballs you can make. That might be just like one you said, like we do dumplings with pork, bacon, and shrimp, and then make into like your noodles with your spaghetti sauce, and then have a little bit of maybe a shrimp paste in there to kind of give a little bit of funky sweetness. And then like it will look exactly like your spaghetti and meatball, but it will have this like tiny bit of a umami, sweet, funky flavor from shrimp.
That sounds great. And also similar to like an anchovy, maybe studded sauce.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. No, this is good. I love that you also write in the book, you're very sort of encouraging of using your own adaptations, sort of embracing your own twists and preferences throughout this book.
Totally, yeah.
Do you think...
I think though... I'm sorry, go
ahead. No.
Yeah, so I think the cookbooks are always a really interesting thing because people buy cookbooks to find the recipe and follow it. However, this cookbook is really, the fact that you're not buying an authentic Korean cookbook, the fact that you are buying cookbook that has flavors and pantry items from all over the world, the whole point is for you to give them a permission, like, hey, this is how things can be mixed and used together. What do you have in your fridge? What do you have in your pantry that's from leftover spice that you bought for this Mexican dinner that you did like 3 months ago? Like, what else can you do with it? And I think that's the fact that how everyone cooks. No one has a pantry that's separated, on their shelf. Like, okay, this is my Middle Eastern shelf. This is my Asian shelf. This is my European shelf. Like, no, everyone has everything all mixed together.
Big mess in my
vinegar
kitchen.
Next to Szechuan chili. Szechuan chili next to a, Northeastern, bourbon
curry
spice.
Leaves,
Like, everything is all mixed together. And so it's basically being able to see this flavor. And then, like, how do you cook it at home? You're cooked, it's learning about how to cook all these flavors. And then being able to see, like, okay, this is what I have in my pantry. What can be a fun thing for me to do by mixing all these flavors together? And because that's how I cook it, and that's how we cook it at our restaurants.
Yeah, I think that's a very generous way of, like, sort of like telling your readers that, you don't have to sweat it. Just try what you like and have fun with it.
Oh, totally. It's about having fun. And I think the fact that, I've been here in America for over 20 years, and I'm married to American. My kids are, half Korean, half American.
Go Hoppas.
So I'm kind of curious what is going to be their Korean food later.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they will appreciate and know what the authentic Korean food is, but what will they cook at home when they grow up? I mean, it will be they will never be just cooking at just one authentic, dishes and recipes they have to follow. They will be having all different ingredients from all their travels and all their likings, and then they want to be able to create a dish for home and for their family. And that's sort of how we like to cook it, and I think that's how a lot of people approach cooking these days anyways.
Yeah, and that is a great question. What will your kids be cooking? I'm hungry for it. What will the future of,
I know,
all these mixed influences?
They're 5- and 7-year-old boys, and they're actually so much fun cooking together. Oh. I think the fact that they've always seen us not so much at home, to be honest, but at the restaurant, always near fire, doing stuff. And so they approach it very easy. They approach it really easily. And, we cook breakfast together all the time. They're excellent scramble makers, scrambled egg makers. They do pancakes really well. And then one of our really fun things that we do at home is we get these little butane burners and put it right in the middle of the table put a pot of stock, just like literally a chicken stock from the store, and then just get a bunch of like mushrooms, tofu, noodles, like beef, and then we do a little hot pot like that. And that's just such a good way for kids to just approach,
That's a good idea.
see like what happens right in front of them and eating it right away, and they love it.
Hot pot meals. And last but not least, Rachel, this is such a wonderfully personal story of a chef and your evolution from very high expectations. You're sent to America from Korea by your parents to literally study hard in high school and get into an Ivy League college and then do some other, profession that is, very successful.
I know. Who
And
knew?
and you succeeded. You got into Brown, you did it, you graduated, and then you went on to become something that perhaps they weren't expecting, a chef in a restaurant. Rachel, I have to ask, what do your parents think of it now? Do they love your restaurants, or are they?
Oh my gosh, they love the restaurant. Obviously, it's been more than it's been a long time since I've been cooking. Yeah, definitely in the beginning, when my parents and I discussed that I was going to go to cooking school after graduating from Brown, I don't think they expected me that I would actually stay in this profession as a professional cook. I think they were like, okay, all right, you don't know what you want to do quite yet. Learning how to cook as a woman is not a bad thing. You can always get married and be a great home, housewife, and then be able to make these fabulous dinners.
Okay.
So I don't think they didn't think that it was something that I was going to do professionally. And to be honest, I didn't know what I was getting into myself into, knowing that what kind of grueling schedule this is, what kind of hard manual labor you're doing. In the beginning. However, I think once I started cooking, especially in the professional kitchen, it was just so much fun. And, it takes a lot of work. So like I tell to a lot of people who are starting to cook, just you need to tough it out a little bit. Because it's people expect to sort of, go through the phase and, they decide to cook, and then they're like, okay, I want to be creating recipes. I want to be, throwing these dinner parties. I want to be having this, I want to be a personal chef to this, rich family. It's like everything takes a little time for you to really kind of invest in, because more than anything, in the long run, what you learn is this being a persistent person, resilient person in the kitchen to really survive. And I got lucky the fact that I met my husband working in the kitchen, the fact that he and I are partners in everything that we do, that really helps us to be where we are. Right. But at the same time, learning how to really, not just how to cook, but then how to really serve people and make people happy. It is really the only way you can survive in this industry, because at the end, you're not making food for yourself, but you're making food for other people.
Wise words indeed. And this really is an inspiring story. I can't wait to share it and tell everybody else to check it out. And, as you were saying, not too many people have what it takes to survive. So congrats to all your success.
Thank you so much.
And congrats on this wonderful book. It's about that time. We're out of time. But thank you again, Rachel Yang. Check out My Rice Bowl.
Thank you, Cathy.
Thanks so much, Rachel.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. And thanks to everyone at Heritage. Thanks for your support throughout the year, to all our listeners. And we'll see you in 2018.
Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content and to hear about exclusive events, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at heritage_radio. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization, driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without support from listeners like you. Want to be a part of the food world's most innovative community? Rate the shows you like, tell your friends, and please join our community by becoming a member. Just click on the beating heart at the top right of our homepage. Thanks for listening.
That I ain't never Never had no loving like this before.